this is the story that has me fired up tonight. We are 2 weeks out from Election Day in this country, and many people think it is the most important election in the history of the country. And basically, this is the landscape. 99 seats in the House are in play, 15 seats in the Senate are in play, and the corporate money, without transparency, is guiding the force for the predicted Republican takeover. It's pouring in. Americans, we're getting gamed by the Chamber of Commerce and Karl Rove, and I think that we are fools if we stand here silent. Now, in the process, some folks in the media claim that unions, well, they're doing the same thing. That's nothing but garbage. Every dime, hear me, every dime is accounted for on behalf of the workers in this country who are in organized labor. And so I think maybe the best way to explain this is let's just take this to a personal level. If you get audited by the IRS, you can't be generic. You have to account for every expenditure and every expense. You have to justify it. I mean, it has to be in black and white. You can't be winging it. In the political arena, on the other hand, the Chamber of Commerce and these outside interest groups are operating under basically a totally different set of rules. Now, as a taxpayer, are you okay with that? Do you think that's fair? We are on the road to elections being bought and paid for in this country. So what's the strategy down the stretch for the Democrats? Can they match this money? Joining me now is White House Senior Advisor David Axelrod. Mr. Axelrod, good to have you on tonight.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
I can't let this story go. It's several weeks on now.
You should not let it go.
You can't match this money, can you?
No. No, and, you know, as the president said, you know, our hope now is to match those millions, those tens of millions. It's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars with the voices of millions of Americans. And, you know, I appreciate your sounding the alarm here. People need to be aware of what's going on. This is an unprecedented thing. You've got these funds cropping up all over, orchestrated by Karl Rove, that will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to influence this race. Let me give you an example. Out in Colorado, Michael Bennet, the Democratic senator, has 6 different organizations running ads against him. None of them are disclosing where the money's coming from. Millions and millions and millions of dollars to try and tip that very important election against him. And we don't. Is it the oil industry? Is it the insurance industry? Wall Street? Foreign-owned companies? You just don't know.
Yeah.
And they won't disclose it. You know, there's one group, Ed, that I really like because of the ironic name, called the Committee for Truth in Politics. And the Committee for Truth in Politics won't disclose who gives money to them. Their charter says they're to promote the social welfare in North Carolina, and they're running negative ads in California, Washington, Ohio against Democratic candidates. This is really an insidious thing, and it's not just a threat to Democrats, it's a threat to our democracy and the power of everyday people.
All right, Karl Rove has been in the middle of all of this, and he, of course, I have always had the philosophy that he always attacks where he's weak. Here he is not long ago talking about all of the money and taking a shot at the president. Here it is.
The President of the United States accused the Chamber of Commerce and the Democratic National Committee in its new ad accuses Ed Gillespie and I of a criminal violation of our law by getting foreign money and spending it on American political campaigns, and they have not one shred of evidence to back up that baseless lie. This is a desperate and, I think, disturbing trend by the President of the United States to tar his political adversaries with some kind of, you know, enemies list with being unrestrained by any facts or evidence whatsoever.
Now, this story was a few days ago, obviously, so I took it a step further. Last night on this program, I had Leo Gerard, the head of the Steelworkers International.
Yes.
And let's play it the other way. This is Mr. Gerard, and I think this is a key comment here. Here it is.
Our books are open. We're prepared to show anybody. But I want the Chamber of Commerce and I want these other secret clubs that have materialized in the last 3 months to do the same thing. This is, Ed, I can't begin to tell you how distressful it is to think that our democracy is being put up for sale.
Now, that's the key point. Our books are open and we're prepared to show anybody. That is the entire issue, is it not?
It is the entire issue. When Karl Rove says they have no proof, of course, no one can have any proof when they keep their books secret, or when they say we're not going to show you where any of that money comes from. The Chamber, Mr. Rove's group, and the more than dozen other groups that are running negative ads against Democratic candidates can resolve all this by simply opening up their books and letting people know where the money's coming from. And Ed, as you know, we tried to make that the law. We had a bill in the Congress called the Disclose Act that would have simply required these organizations to disclose where the money is coming from for all these ads. And the Republican Party unanimously stood against it in the United States Senate. 41 senators wouldn't allow an up or down vote against it. What is it that they're trying to hide?
Well, they're hiding foreign interests because that's where the jobs are going. There's some serious back scratching going on here, in my opinion. What do you say to those people, those critics, analysts out there who are purporting the idea that, you know, this is just the White House looking for an issue because you're behind right now in a lot of polls? What do you think?
Look, I think this is fundamental. If you can have interest groups who can pour millions of dollars into these benign-sounding committees to tilt elections, it is going to fundamentally change our democracy. As I said, this is bigger than just Democrats, and we've been talking about this since January. And as you remember, the president made this point in the State of the Union speech when he said the Supreme Court had opened the door to the corporate takeover of our elections. Well, now we're seeing the manifestation of that concern, and so this isn't a newfound complaint of ours. That's why we pushed for the Disclose Act. And, you know, I must tell you that Mr. Rove, back in 2004, when Democratic contributors were giving to third-party committees that disclosed their contributions, he complained that that was a threat to democracy. Now, they did it in the bright light of day. They gave it to political committees. They had to disclose their contributions. Now he's doing the same thing, and except on a larger scale, and they won't disclose where the money's coming from. But he's fine with that now. A little bit of hypocrisy there, you know.
Well, if the Republicans get the majority in either chamber of the Congress, you can forget campaign finance reform. And if we were to believe the polls tonight, it looks like the Republicans could take over the House. If they do, this is going to be in place for 2012. How is the Obama White House going to match this kind of corporate money? We all know they don't like the president. We all know who his enemies are. So the bottom line is, how in the world could you ever match this money going into 2012?
Well, obviously, that's something we're going to have to consider, Ed. We aren't going to give up the fight to try and get them to disclose this, and we're going to raise very high the banner of campaign finance reform. Look, it makes no sense. If you and I give a contribution, we can give up to $2,300, and we have to disclose who we are, our address, what we do, and the world knows what we've done. And yet we have this parallel system in the shadows in which people can give $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, not the captains of these industries and special interests to defeat or elect candidates, and they don't have to disclose. It makes the campaign finance system fraudulent, and it throws us back to the days of the robber barons and the Gilded Age. And we're going to keep fighting this fight. We'll deal with whatever happens, but it's not something we're going to leave alone, I'll tell you that.
How would the White House deal with Speaker Boehner?
Well, first of all, I am not willing to concede that we're going to be dealing with Speaker Boehner. I know he's been doing victory laps for some time, but we're going to work hard between now and November 2nd to see to it that that doesn't happen. But look, here's my attitude. My attitude is that even if the Republicans don't take over, they're going to have more votes. They've acted irresponsibly for the last 2 years and sat on the sidelines while we tried to do things to move this country forward, to get us out of the ditch they put us in, to lift the middle class, to fight back against some of the special interest influence.
They have fought you on every jobs issue, haven't they?
Every single one of them, including, by the way, it took us months to pass a small business bill because they said we didn't believe we should help small. They didn't believe that we should help small business with lending. It's unfathomable, but we have to keep trying to hold them responsible and say, look, we're all trustees of the future of this country, but we have to demand that they act responsibly, and we have to direct the American people to what they do and don't do in the months and years to come.
Mr. Axelrod, there's no question that the president is working as hard as he can on behalf of candidates. I mean, it's in high gear.
Yes.
Did the White House think it was going to come to this? Did you think that he was going to have to work this hard on the campaign trail? And it looks like the schedule's changing day to day. A month ago, it wouldn't have been this filled up. What do you make of it?
Well, I don't know about that, Ed. I think we always knew we were going to have a tough election. I sat in a room with the president in mid-December of 2008 when the economic advisors reported on what was about to happen and what was happening in the economy, and the full depth of it wasn't really widely known, but they were talking about the potential of a second Great Depression, the worst downturn since the Great Depression. And as I left the room, I said to the president, here's what I can tell you. 2 years from now, we're going to have a very tough election. All those who are called geniuses now will be called idiots, and your job approval will not be what it was, because that's just the nature of this business. So we always were prepared for a tough election, and he is out there fighting, because there's two choices here. One is to go forward, and the other is to go back to the same policies that punish the middle class, that drove our economy into a ditch, and we're just not willing to do that.
If I could leave you with a final thought on this issue, I find it terribly ironic that small business, of course, the Republicans love to say that they are the party of small business. If a small business goes through an audit, they can't wing it. You can't you can't say to the IRS, hey, I've got a general fund, you know. I mean, if you spend $30,000, $40,000 a year on entertainment expenses, you got to be able to document it. If you pony up for new equipment, you got to be able and write it off. You got to be able to document it. And here's the Chamber of Commerce taking money and hiding behind this general fund and laying out all kinds of cash to work against the very party that has been trying to help small business. I would have never thought it came to this. But
and, you know, not just the chamber, but all these other groups. And look, the point is this: if you want to keep things secret, then you have something to hide. And I think the American people ought to be very, very suspicious of these secret committees and this torrent of negative ads paid for by people who won't identify themselves.
They're throwing millions of dollars around like $5 bills. Mr. Axelrod, good to have you with us tonight. I appreciate your time.
Great to be with you.
You bet.
Thank you.